Hello and welcome to this episode. Today I'm going to talk you through some pre-MOT checks you can do at home. So if you want to avoid any surprises when your bike goes in for an MOT, then stick around. So firstly, I want to note that the MOT inspection manual is always changing. At the time of filming, all items mentioned in this video are up to date. I'm only going to comment on the testable items on this particular vehicle, the Honda NC750X. Other models may vary. You can check all these rules with the most recent up-to-date manual online, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. So I'm going on the assumption your bike has been serviced regularly and is in good working order with no rattles or excessive smoke coming from the engine. You should also have sufficient engine oil without any low oil warning lights on the dash. First thing that you should check is that your VIN or frame number is clear and visible. The tester cannot carry out your MOT without this information. It might be useful to bring your V5 registration certificate with you in case your vehicle is not on the DVSA database. The tester can then manually put this information in. Check you have all the keys to open all access panels and the fuel cap. The fuel cap must have a rubber seal on and should lock in place. Next, check that your steering lock functions and locks the bars. Sit on the bike and get an assistant to run you through all your lights. Check the dip beam, main beam, indicators, side light, number plate light and DRLs. If there is a light fitted, it must function correctly. Make sure the main beam and indicators telltale work. You should also make sure there is sufficient fuel in the bike. Check that your horn is nice and loud and don't interfere with any of your lights. With the engine off, turn the steering from lock to lock, making sure you can't feel any roughness. Now hold the front brake and push down on the suspension several times, checking the bike does not have excessive rebound, and do the same for the rear, jumping on the suspension. Now work your way around the bars and check that everything is secure, including the grips and the bar end weights. Now start the engine and turn the bars from lock to lock. The engine revs should not change and the bars should not touch the tank or the panels. While the engine is running, make sure no fuel is leaking from the fuel lines and throttle body. Also check the exhaust is not blowing. There is no equipment to test the noise level of the exhaust, but it can't be excessively loud. Having "not for road use" stamped on the can will also be a reason for rejection. Turn off the engine, put the bike on the centre stand. Start at the front, pull the brake lever, make sure it's not creeping and the hoses are not bulging. Examine the lines and the hoses for deterioration. Check for leaks and check fluid level is okay and the fluid isn't dark in colour. The brake lever should not touch the bar when pulled in. Do the same for the rear brake pedal. Checking for excessive travel and examine brake lines. Check fluid level is above minimum mark and the fluid is not too dark. Now go to the front and check suspension stanchions from top to bottom. Make sure they are not rusty or leaking any oil. Look for any defects or bent parts, checking the frame headstock area for any cracks or corrosion. Raise the front wheel and listen for any roughness. A rough bearing will transmit vibrations to your hand when placed on the shock tube. Now hold your finger near the rim and spin the wheel to check for any buckle. Alloy rims have a tolerance of 2mm and steel rims have a tolerance of 4mm. Now give the wheel a wiggle from points 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Turn the forks from left to right, checking for any roughness. Check the discs are not excessively worn and check for any excessive play in the floaters. The brake pads should be no less than 1.5mm or 1mm if they are sintered pads. An easy way to check this is use a 5p piece and slide it near the pad. The brake pad should be thicker than the 5p. Now check your tyre tread condition and depth. It should be no less than 1mm, 75% around the tread. The 75% don't have to be a constant band and can shift over. Also check your valve stem is not deteriorating. Underneath, check the rear suspension for any leaks, excessive corrosion or worn bushes. Make your way to the rear wheel. Do the same as you did on the front. Check the wheel bearing, brakes, discs, wheel condition and tyre. Check the rear spindle as a split pin or lock nut. Pull the rear wheel towards you, checking there is no movement in the rear swing arm. Make your way around the bike, checking security of all the panels and check around the frame for any defects. Pull on the pegs and check they are not excessively worn. Make sure there are no bolts missing from any fixing and all E-clips are present. Check your chain and sprockets. Here is an example of an excessively worn sprocket. Make sure your sprocket has no bolts missing and don't have any excessive play. If you have a horseshoe clip, make sure the open end is facing away from rotation. The chain slack should be no more than 40mm. Last thing to check is your registration plate. Make sure it's clear to read with no imperfections or deterioration, and check that it is secure. You must also have a rear reflector. Each character should be 64mm in height, 44mm wide, spaced 10mm apart, and no closer than 11mm from the plate border. Well, that's the end of the video. I've tried to cover everything here. I do apologise if I've missed something, but this video is just friendly advice and may help you get your bike ready for its next MOT. Please comment if you have any questions. Until then, I've been Nick. I'll catch you on the next episode. Ride safe.